Hello viewers, tutorial 8 question 2, and we see there the graph of y equals 2 cosine of 5x minus 2, all of that minus 1. We have 5 points on the graph. We have A, B, C, D and E, and we need to find their coordinates. So the first thing we need to do is find the coordinates of point A. What feature of the graph is point A? That is the y-intercept, which means we can put in x equals 0, and if we put in x equals 0 and do the calculation of 2 cosine of 5 times 0 minus 2, whole thing minus 1, we get negative 1.832, so therefore A is the point x is 0 and y is negative 1.832. Okay, so we have the coordinates of A. Now we need to work out the coordinates of B, C, D and E. For each of those, it'll be the y coordinate that we find first. It's only the x coordinate that we get first for the y-intercept. Everything else, it'll be the y coordinate that we find first, which means we need to make x the subject of our equation there. So the first thing we can do is add 1 to both sides of the equation. Y equals 2 cosine of 5x minus 2 minus 1. So we get, if we solve for x, which is what we're doing, we get y plus 1 equals 2 times cosine, so we can divide by 2, equals cosine of 5x minus 2. So let's take the inverse cosine, so we get cos inverse of y plus 1 over 2 equals 5x minus 2. So let's move that minus 2 to the other side, which will make that plus 2. And if we've got 5x at the moment, so we need to divide that by 5 to get x. So that is x. We've solved it for x. Now we need to work out what the remaining points are. So for point B, it's the maximum. So we'll find y first. So if we work out what y is, the normal cosine function, just cos of something, goes between y equals negative 1 and 1. 2 times cosine doubles that, so it goes from minus 2 to positive 2. Now if we subtract 1 from the whole thing, then that moves the whole graph 1 unit down. So instead of going from minus 2 to 2, it's going to go from minus 2 minus 1 to 2 minus 1, which is minus 3 to minus 3 to positive 1. So this minimum would be at y equals negative 3, and this maximum is at 1. So for the maximum, y equals 1. Okay, so with y equals 1, we can substitute that directly into our rearrangement for x. So therefore we get x equals cos inverse of y is 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 2 divided by 5, which gives us an answer of 0.4. So therefore B has the coordinates of 0.4 is the x value and y is 1. So point C, we need to find the coordinates of C, which is the x-intercept at this point. So for an x-intercept, we have that y equals 0. We have the y value. Again, we can substitute that into our rearrangement of the original function. So x is cos inverse of y is 0 plus 1 over 2 plus 2. That's divided by 5. And if we calculate that, we get an answer of 0.609. Okay, so therefore C is the point 0.609, comma, and Y was 0. Okay, so point D, which is the minimum, we've already identified that for this minimum Y equals negative 3. So we get X equals cos inverse of negative 3 plus 1 over 2 plus 2 if we substitute negative 3 into our rearranged for x equation. And this will give us, if we calculate that, we get 1.028. So therefore, D has coordinates of 1.028 was the x value, and the y value is negative 3. So we have point D. All that remains now is to find the coordinates of the last point, which is the inflection point. So E is an inflection point, and an inflection point is always exactly halfway for the y coordinate, exactly halfway between the y coordinate of the minimum and the y coordinate of the maximum. So exactly halfway between negative 3 and 1, which is, to get halfway between two numbers, we can add them and divide by 2. So we have minus 3 plus 1, which is minus 2. Divide that by 2 and we get minus 1. So the inflection is at y equals negative 1. And we can substitute that into our rearrangement as well. So we get x equals cos inverse of y is negative 1 plus 1 over 2 plus 2. That's divided by 5, which gives us a value of 0.714. So have we got the correct point? Looking at it, the point that we've got is to the right of point D, which means we're expecting an answer greater than the x coordinate of D, so greater than 1.028. So in fact we've found the value between C and D, because what we've got is between 0.609 and 1.028. So we've found that point there. We need to find this point here, which is, this is the halfway point of the cycle in the vertical direction, which means we can add 1/2 of a period, because we're going from the point at which it goes through the inflection point on the way down to the inflection point on the way up. So this from here to here is half a period. So what's the period? Period equals 2 pi over b, which is 2 pi over 5. Need to add half the period. So it's going to be 0.714 plus 1/2 of the period, which is 2 pi over 5. And if we calculate that, we get 1.342. So therefore E has coordinates of 1.342 with the x coordinate, and the y coordinate is negative 1. Okay, thanks for watching. Over and out.